Welcome everyone to Sustainable Packaging, brought to you by Cory. I'm very excited and honored to have David, Chief Sustainability Officer at Ranpak Packaging, as my very first guest. And it's very fitting because one of the first things I sold as a rookie sales rep 18 years ago was Ranpak TT paper. And we replaced thousands of bags of peanuts with paper. So we were being sustainable years ago before it was even trendy and cool like it is now. So welcome, David.
Thank you so much, Cory. I'm pleased to be here.
Thank you, sir. We've recently connected on Clubhouse, which is a really cool new app and social media kind of a platform for audio chatting, and in the Sustainable Packaging Club and Packaging Club. So I want to thank you for all your time you've spent in there.
I've enjoyed the time at Clubhouse. It's a lot of fun, and it's great seeing everybody and meeting people. It's actually surprised me. I've never been much of a social media person before that, but I've really enjoyed it.
I think a lot of us, like you and me, have more recently become social media savvy just by being forced to be home.
That's right.
I totally agree with that.
And teenage kids helps too.
So tell us how you got started in packaging, David.
Sure. So I ended up in packaging kind of through a circuitous route. I'm actually trained as a lawyer, and I was a lawyer for many years and did a lot of kind of corporate transactions and big, frankly, corporate messes. I was involved in, like the Lehman Brothers bankruptcy, all these big 9/11 cleanup, a lot of big, best way to describe it, just big, crazy, complicated situations. And then I went and worked for a company called One Madison, and I worked there with a guy who I had known for some time, named Omar Osley. And at One Madison, we ended up acquiring Ranpak. And Omar, my boss, who's now became the CEO of Ranpak, and among others of us at One Madison, we took some different roles at Ranpak, and I'd always been very interested in sustainability. So Omar asked me if I'd like to be the Chief Sustainability Officer, and I said, absolutely. It's a wonderful job. I consider myself lucky to have this job. It's just a terrific, fun position to have. And so I'm not a long-term packaging expert by any means, but I found that in the world of kind of corporate transactional work, where you're dealing with big, complex, multifaceted problems, you kind of learn how to bring different expertise to bear and bring different people to bear and thoughts to bear to move kind of complex processes forward. And I found that that's incredibly helpful skill to have in thinking about sustainability, especially at a place like Ranpak, where sustainability is such a big part of what we do and who we are.
Absolutely. Ranpak, like you said, you guys are at the forefront of sustainability, and I know our companies have been partners for many years. And it's just an honor to be interviewing you today. So thank you.
No problem at all. Happy to.
So I have a big question.
Okay.
And this is something that's been really frustrating lately. I've had some people on TikTok and on Clubhouse and on LinkedIn saying, can packaging really be sustainable?
Well, the answer is yes, obviously. I think that it's an interesting question because it kind of asks, underlying this question is, can we do anything in the world without changing it? And obviously, the way to be most sustainable, I guess, is to I don't even know, live in a tent and live off the land, but we can't do that today, right? I think that packaging is definitely a challenge writ large to become more sustainable, but I think it's absolutely necessary and must become more sustainable. So I think that the challenge for us is to do everything we do, including packaging, and I'm in packaging, so that's what I'm most concerned at and focused on, but frankly, in every aspect of our lives, to make choices that frankly reduce the adverse consequences of what we do today for our children and grandchildren, which to me is the very definition of sustainability. Just do what we need to do today in such a way that we reduce the negative consequences for our children and grandchildren. So yeah, absolutely. Sustainability, packaging can be sustainable. It should be sustainable. It should be more sustainable. So my answer is absolutely yes. And that's what we try to do at Ranpak, frankly, every day. I mean, that's really the core of our reason for existing, frankly. And the company's been around for a long time, but it's always been at its core.
Yes. 100% paper packaging is
Hun-
what Ranpak does. Your Giami product is one of my favorites. It's a direct replacement for bubble wrap,
Absolutely.
even though a lot of people were very upset with me that I posted about it because they love popping bubbles.
Although a lot of people,
So,
I hear that, but Giambi just feels so nice when you touch it, doesn't it? I mean, it
it's
just,
elegant. Yeah,
it's an elegant feel. It's a wonderful box opening experience.
I agree.
And it's just a terrific product, and it's really cool the way the honeycomb opens up as you pull it. I think it's just a terrific product, and we're selling that now not only through companies like yours to other businesses, but we've also actually begun selling at retail. It can be
Yeah,
bought in Staples and on Amazon and all different places by consumers directly. So that's really exciting.
that's the Ranpak EX Mini.
The Ranpak EX Mini, but also we have a product called the Ready Roll,
Oh yeah,
right?
I've seen that.
Which is like an expanded Giami. And for those of you who are listening, Giami it's a great product because it looks like a dense roll of paper, but the paper's been die cut so that when it comes out of the dispenser, it effectively expands out and reaches some depth to give that cushioning. So in a warehouse scenario, like you're used to dealing with, Cory, right? It's nice tight rolls and you pull it out and it expands as you use it, as opposed to big rolls of bubble wrap that are take up so much space in the warehouse. But we found that because it's so hard to kind of conceptualize what it looks like when it's expanded,
Yeah.
that we started initially, we needed to create a product that looked more like bubble wrap so people would know what to do with it to put it on shelves. Isn't that wild?
I never thought of that. That is,
yeah, so it's exciting. So
it makes sense.
yeah, if you look at our Ready Roll, it was designed, it was put together to look on a shelf like bubble wrap, even though it's 100% paper and has no plastic in it.
I bet that factory where they expanded is very loud.
Yes. Totally.
It's an audio experience. I've posted some ASMR videos about it, and it gets a lot of attention. People are fascinated by it.
Totally. That's wonderful.
Well, thank you so much. The next question I had was, Ranpak paper is made out of wood pulp. Do you think that hemp and other alternative fibers will become sustainable, viable options to replace wood fibers in packaging?
I certainly hope it does. I think for certain applications, I think that, as you know, that, Cory, there are certain applications that you really need the denser, stronger fiber that virgin fiber provides for certain kind of more industrial applications. But for your basic void fill and some of your wrapping applications, our hope is very much that becomes a big part of the future. And it's interesting at Ranpak, Ranpak has been around forever. I mean, Ranpak, we're going to have our 50th anniversary next year. The company was founded in 1972.
I didn't know that.
Yes. And the company has always been 100% paper from its very, very beginning. And so we like to joke that we're kind of like an old school business that's been doing paper forever, that kind of the world has come around to us because it's always been 100% paper and sustainable. As far as alternative pulps go, I mean, we're constantly looking ways to innovate, and we are doing a lot of research right now and testing. I mean, these aren't things that are going to be out on the market, next month or next quarter even, or maybe next year even, but we're doing tons of research and development on analyzing different pulps, bamboo, sugarcane, hemp, just about anything else that's more that renews itself more readily, right? So in the sense that these being more sustainable because a bamboo forest or a sugarcane field will regrow in a much shorter time than a forest will.
Right.
And we're doing a lot of research and development in those areas. It's hard. It's both hard to find paper that will perform, sheets that will perform the way you want it to perform. And it's also very hard, frankly, to find the scalability of it, right? I mean, we have 30,000+ end users around the world. We sell our packaging system, our packaging material in 50+ countries around the world. So when we want to go into something, we really have to know that we can get the supply. And a lot of these alternate pulps at this point don't really have the scale yet to be able to really supply us and our products, but we're looking hard at our goal. In fact, Cory, we just released our most recent ESG report about 2 weeks ago. You should look it up online. I don't know if you've seen it. It's at ranpak.com. And in that ESG report, we announced a number of targets, like a lot of companies like to do, and we want to do because we think it's important. And one of those targets is to have 25% of our aggregate paper supply coming from pulp, meaning like if you have a blended paper, the blended piece would go towards the target, but at least 25% of that being from post-consumer or alternative pulps. So that's something we're very focused on, something that we believe in. So the answer is yes, I think, and yes, I hope, and yes, I believe, but we're not quite there yet, unfortunately. But we're working hard.
Share your positive outlook. I just read an article about Corona, and they have just started making 6-pack cartons out of their wheat straw.
Oh, wow.
So they're taking a byproduct from their beer, and they're turning it into packaging, 6-pack paper, well, wheat straw paper.
Wow.
Absolutely amazing idea. And I'd like to see more companies do things like that with their byproducts.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the interesting thing about sugarcane. We looked at a sugarcane manufacturer as a potential supplier. We were looking at what they did. And it turns out that the fiber that they used to create the paper, or that they were trying to create the paper, and I think that they'll get there someday, and someday this is where everything's going to go.
Yeah.
But it's actually just refuse from the sugar making and rum making process. It's stuff that would otherwise just be thrown away or burned.
And that's the best part, right?
Absolutely.
It's waste. That's what to me makes it so sustainable, is rather than just burning it, which is what a lot of farmers have to do, or production facilities, we're turning that into something viable that can be used to carry beer or to carry products or to ship it.
And Cory, it doesn't even matter what it's used for, as long as it's used for something.
Yeah,
it's less stuff that's being made, and that's at the end of the day, like the best way to be the most sustainable is to just use less stuff. So, like, I mean, in all honesty, just use less, right?
Yeah.
So one of the projects, well, it's just a pilot project. It's very small, and we talk about it in our ESG report. But that I'm really proud of, Ranpak, is, as you know, under our business model, customers get our machines, our systems, at very low cost, and they don't buy them. We retain ownership of the machines, and we sell them the paper to run through the machines. And that's a really interesting business model for a whole bunch of reasons. But one of the cool reasons is that when customers stop using machines, they take them back. We take them back, right? And what we found is that a lot of our machines, you know what they look like. I mean, they're technical, but these aren't, they're not like, supercomputers, right?
Mostly metals and plastic. Yeah.
Metals and plastic and machine parts. What we found is that we initiated a pilot project last year with one of our systems to actively go and try to scavenge machine parts from machines that had been returned or were being taken out of service.
Awesome.
Specifically, no reason other than to use less, right? Because if you can pull a gear, a wheel, or whatever, a screw or whatever, a body part from a machine that is maybe sometimes 15, 20 years old, our machines, some of them last forever, 15, 20 years old, that's no longer good enough to be in service, and you can take parts, use them in new machines. It saves money, but most importantly, it's just one less screw you have to buy, one less body part you have to buy, one less gear you have to buy. It's just
everybody
using
wins.
less is the best way to be more sustainable.
I agree. Yeah, they say less than 9% of plastic is recycled. So if you can take all those machines and recycle that or reuse that plastic, that'll be, we'll get that number up for sure.
Great. And Cory, I'm sorry, I just turned off my video because my Wi-Fi is getting a little choppy, but keep going. I'm here.
No worries. I did want to mention before we finish up here that your local rep, Nathan Lappin, is doing an amazing job. and he has been a great partner for us here in the Northwest. So kudos to him.
That's great. That's great for Nathan. Nathan's a great guy. He's just a terrific guy. He's nice. He knows what he's doing, and that's great to hear. I'm thrilled to hear you say that, and I'll report that up the chain and make sure Nathan, if you're listening, I'll make sure Greg hears this. I know what I'm talking about.
We got to give kudos where it's due, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, sir. I'm
Cool.
very excited to have you back on again someday soon, and we'll do a part 2 of this, in a few months and see kind of the response to this. So thank you, David, for being my first guest on my first podcast. I truly appreciate it.
Happy to, proud to be, and I appreciate it. And thanks for inviting me, Cory. This has been fun.
Thank you, sir. I'm Cory Connors. I spent 24 years in the packaging industry, and this podcast